My girlfriend smiled and said, "It's just a backpacking trip." While dodging every question about tents and logistics, I trusted her, took time off work, and packed my gear without arguing, until one message exposed who that trail was really planned for. I'm 31M, she's 30F. We dated for about 2 years, broke up for 8 months, and got back together 4 months ago. Things have been good. Different, but good. We're both trying to rebuild trust and figure out how to make this work the second time around. Reese works as a lab tech at our local hospital, and I drive delivery for a building supply company. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills, and I like being on the road. We're pretty different people, but we connected over wanting something real and stable. A few weeks ago, she brought up this backpacking trip she's been planning. 6 weeks on the Pacific Crest Trail, starting in Oregon. She asked if I wanted to join her for part of it, maybe the first 2 weeks. And honestly, I was touched. Hiking isn't really my thing, but the fact that she wanted to include me in something this important to her felt like progress. Here's where I may be screwed up, but I don't think so. Given our history of breaking up partly because of communication issues, I told her up front, if there's anyone on this trip who you have any kind of romantic history with, I need to know. I'm not trying to control who you're friends with, but if I'm going to be stuck in the wilderness with people for 2 weeks, I need full transparency. She looked me right in the eye and said, "Of course. I wouldn't put you in that position." So I started getting excited about it. Bought gear, started training, even took some time off work. The plan was that I'd hike with her and her friend Declan for the first section. Then he'd continue on with her for the full 6 weeks while I headed home. But then things started getting weird. Last week, she brought up sleeping arrangements and casually mentioned that she thought it would be better logistics if Declan and I each had our own tents, and she'd rotate between them depending on the terrain and weather. That made no sense to me. Reese, we're trying to minimize pack weight, right? Why wouldn't we just share a 2-person tent? It might be more comfortable for everyone this way. More comfortable how? She got that look. The one where she's trying to find the right words to avoid saying what she actually means. It's hard to explain. Declan's really particular about his setup, and I don't want there to be any tension. What kind of tension? We're all adults here. I just think separate tents would be smoother. I dropped it, but something felt off. If this Declan guy is so particular that he can't handle normal camping logistics, why are we hiking with him? And why does she seem more concerned about his comfort than mine? The whole conversation left me feeling like there's something she's not telling me. Not necessarily something bad, but something she's decided I don't need to know. And given that we literally broke up the first time because she had a habit of making unilateral decisions about our relationship, this is hitting all the wrong buttons. I've been trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I keep coming back to that conversation where I specifically asked for transparency about anyone with romantic history. She was so definitive about it. Either she was telling the truth, or she was lying to my face. I don't want to be paranoid, but I also don't want to be naive. We're talking about 2 weeks in the wilderness where I'll be completely dependent on these people for safety. If there's drama I don't know about, I need to know about it. Am I overthinking this tent situation, or is this the kind of weird detail that usually points to a bigger issue? Edit. A few people are asking why I don't just ask Declan directly. I've never actually met the guy. All I know is that he's a seasonal park ranger who's done this trail before, and that they've been planning this trip for months. Edit 2. To be clear, I'm not trying to control who she hikes with. I'm trying to make sure I'm not walking into a situation blind. There's a difference. Update 1. I had the conversation with Reese, and it went about as well as you'd expect, which is to say, not well at all. I waited until we had a quiet evening and brought it up directly. Reese, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Is there anything between you and Declan that I should know about? She got that deer in headlights look immediately. What do you mean? I mean exactly what I asked you before. Have you two ever had any kind of romantic involvement? She was quiet for a long time. Too long. Finally, she said, "It's complicated. Uncomplicate it for me. We had a situation while you and I were broken up. It wasn't serious, but yes, there was something there. I felt that familiar drop in my stomach. What kind of situation? We were both dealing with stuff. I was missing you," He was going through his own things. We ended up spending a lot of time together, and one thing led to another. Reese, when I specifically asked you if there was anyone on this trip with romantic history, you looked me in the eye and said you wouldn't put me in that position. I didn't lie to you. We're not together. It's over. You didn't lie. Are you serious right now? I didn't lie. I didn't tell you everything. That's when I lost it a little. That's literally the definition of lying by omission. I asked you a direct question specifically because I needed to know this information, and you chose not to tell me. I was scared you'd overreact and not want to go, so you decided to let me figure it out in the middle of the wilderness instead. It's not like that, Graham. It really is over between us. I wanted you to come because I want us to share this experience. Declan is he's part of the trail community. That's all. If that's all it is, why couldn't you just tell me the truth? She started crying then. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this. I knew you'd make it about him instead of about us. I'm not making it about him. I'm making it about the fact that you lied to me. Again. I didn't lie. You let me buy gear, take time off work, and plan for a trip where I'd be stuck with your ex-boyfriend for 2 weeks. And you did it by deliberately withholding information you knew would affect my decision. How is that not lying? The conversation went downhill from there. She kept insisting that she hadn't technically lied, just hadn't volunteered information she didn't think was relevant. I kept trying to explain that the relevance wasn't up to her to decide. That's exactly why I'd asked the question in the first place. We ended up agreeing to postpone the trip while we figured this out. But honestly, I don't know if there's anything to figure out. She had a choice between being honest with me and protecting herself from an uncomfortable conversation, and she chose to protect herself. That's not complicated. That's just selfish. The thing that really gets to me is that she still doesn't seem to understand why I'm upset. She keeps framing it like I'm jealous of Declan, when what I'm actually angry about is that she made a decision for both of us by hiding the truth. I don't know if this is fixable. The hiking trip was supposed to be about rebuilding trust, and instead, it's highlighted exactly why that trust broke down in the first place. Edit, some people are saying I should have asked more specific questions up front. Maybe they're right. But I feel like, do you have romantic history with anyone on this trip? Is pretty specific. Edit 2. Others are asking if I think she's still involved with him. Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that she prioritized avoiding an uncomfortable conversation over being honest with me, and that tells me everything I need to know about where I stand. Update 2. I thought things couldn't get worse, but I was wrong. So much worse. After our fight about Declan, Reese asked if we could try to work through this. She said she understood why I was upset and wanted to prove that she was committed to full transparency going forward. She offered to show me the group chat they'd been using to plan the trip, just the logistics stuff, so I could see for myself that there was nothing inappropriate happening. I didn't want to be the boyfriend who checks his girlfriend's messages, but at the same time, she'd already proven she was willing to hide important information from me. So I agreed. Big mistake, or maybe not a mistake, but definitely not what I was hoping to find. The first few messages were normal trip planning stuff, trail conditions, resupply points, gear lists. But then I got to a conversation from about 2 weeks ago that made everything clear. Declan had written, "Been thinking about this trip and I gotta be honest, I'm having a hard time with it. That trail has so many memories for us. Feels weird to have someone else there." Reese replied, "I know it's complicated, but Graham's important to me. I want him to see this part of my life. I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm genuinely struggling with the idea of sharing our trail with some random dude. You know that route is special to us. He's not random, Deck. And it's not like we're going back to how things were. Aren't we, though? Same trail, same campsites, same everything. Except now there's going to be this other guy watching us interact. It's fucking weird, Reese. What do you want me to do? Not include him in my life? I want you to be honest about what this is. Are you trying to make me jealous? Because if so, mission accomplished. It's not about making anyone jealous. I'm trying to build something real with Graham. Then why does it feel like you're trying to have both?" That message sat there for hours before Reese replied. "Maybe we can work out a different arrangement. What if Graham only does the first section, and you and I do the back half alone? Would that help?" "Yeah, that would help. A lot." I read that entire exchange 3 times, and each time it got worse. This wasn't just about her having a past with Declan. She was actively managing both of our feelings, trying to give him enough of what he wanted to keep him happy while still including me enough to prove she was committed to our relationship. When I confronted her about it, she tried to minimize it. He was just being emotional about the trail. It has sentimental value for him. Reese, he straight up told you he was jealous and asked if you were trying to have both of us. Your response wasn't to shut that down, it was to offer him a compromise. I was trying to keep the peace. You were trying to keep your options open. That's not fair, isn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you invited me on this trip without telling Declan about us, and you're planning to manage both of our expectations so neither of us gets too upset to back out. She didn't have an answer for that. The worst part is that even while we were having this conversation about honesty and transparency, she was still leaving stuff out. She mentioned that Declan was uncomfortable with me being there, but she never mentioned that he'd straight up said he was jealous. She told me they were working out logistics, but she never mentioned that those logistics involved her promising him alone time with her. I asked her point blank, if I hadn't seen those messages, would you have told me about any of this? She hesitated too long before answering. I was trying to figure out how to handle it. That's not what I asked. I don't know. Maybe. Eventually. That's when I realized this isn't about Declan at all. This is about the fact that Reese still thinks it's okay to make decisions about our relationship without including me in them. She's still operating like she gets to control the flow of information based on what she thinks I can handle, or what she thinks will keep everyone happy. I told her I needed some time to think about whether this is something we can get past. She asked how much time, and honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that I can't build a future with someone who thinks transparency is optional. Edit. A lot of people are asking why I agreed to look at her messages in the first place. Fair question. I guess I hoped I'd find proof that I was being paranoid instead of proof that I was right to be suspicious. Edit 2. Some people are saying I should have just trusted her from the beginning. But trust has to be based on something, right? And what she's shown me is that she's willing to hide important information when it's convenient for her. Final update, we're done. For real this time. I spent the last week trying to figure out if this was something we could work through, and I think I finally have my answer. We had one last conversation yesterday that made everything crystal clear. I went to her place with the intention of either figuring out how to move forward or ending things cleanly. I told her I needed complete honesty about everything, not just the big stuff, but all the little details she'd been leaving out. Reese, if we're going to have any chance of making this work, I need to know I'm getting the whole truth. No more managing information, no more deciding what I can handle, everything. She said she understood and that she was committed to full transparency. So I asked her to walk me through exactly what happened between her and Declan during our breakup and how she'd been handling his feelings about the trip. She told me they'd spent time together and that it had been emotional support that became physical. She said it lasted a few months but ended when she realized she wanted to get back together with me. She said Declan had been struggling with her decision to invite me on the trip, but that she'd been trying to reassure him that it was just about sharing her passion for hiking with me. It sounded reasonable. Almost too reasonable. So I asked her about some of the specific things I'd seen in their messages. What about when he said the trail was special to you two? We hiked a lot together. He's sentimental about it. And when he asked if you were trying to make him jealous, he was just being dramatic. You know how guys get. And when you offered to do the back half of the trail alone with him? She paused. I was trying to find a compromise that would work for everyone. But here's the thing. I'd taken screenshots of those messages before giving her phone back, and what she was telling me now didn't match what I'd read. Declan hadn't just been sentimental. He'd talked about their spot at one of the campsites and how they'd made that place ours. He hadn't been dramatic about jealousy. He'd been specific about how seeing us together would be painful for him. And the compromise wasn't about keeping everyone happy. It was specifically about giving him what he called closure time with her. When I brought up these details, she got defensive. I don't remember every exact word. These aren't minor details, Reese. He wasn't just your hiking buddy. You two had a whole relationship. Why does it matter what we called it? It matters because even now, when you're supposedly being completely honest with me, you're still minimizing and leaving things out. That's when she finally got angry. What do you want me to do, Graham? Give you a play-by-play of every conversation I've ever had? You're being obsessive. I want you to stop treating honesty like it's optional. Even right now, in this conversation that's supposed to be about rebuilding trust, you're still editing the truth. I'm not editing anything. I'm trying to spare you unnecessary details. That's exactly the problem. You think you get to decide what's necessary. We went back and forth like this for another hour, but it was pointless. She kept insisting that she was being honest while simultaneously explaining why certain details weren't important enough to share. Even when caught in the contradictions, she couldn't admit that she was still doing exactly what she'd always done. The final straw came when I asked her if Declan had actually decided not to go on the trip. Yeah, he backed out yesterday. Said he couldn't afford the time off work. But I'd seen a message from him just that morning asking if she was really going to choose Graham over everything we built together. When I mentioned this, she went completely quiet. Reese, what did he actually say when he backed out? Does it matter? Yeah, it does. He was upset, but mostly about work stuff. I knew she was lying. Even in this moment, when everything was on the line, she was still trying to manage the information. Still trying to control the narrative. You know what? It doesn't matter what he said. What matters is that you're still lying to me about it. I left after that. She called me later crying, asking for another chance, saying she could learn to be more open, but I think we both know it's too late for that. The thing is, I don't think she's malicious. I think she's just fundamentally incapable of being fully honest when that honesty might create conflict or make her look bad. She's so focused on managing everyone's feelings that she can't see how her management is the thing that's destroying the trust she's trying to protect. I'm sad about how this turned out. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done trying to build something real with someone who thinks reality is negotiable. The hiking trip is obviously not happening. Declan apparently changed his mind about backing out once he found out I was no longer going, which tells me everything I need to know about what that trip was really about. I'm disappointed, but I'm also relieved. I spent 8 months missing this relationship, and now I remember why it ended the first time. Some people just aren't capable of the kind of transparency that real partnership requires. I'm focusing on my own life now. Maybe I'll try hiking on my own someday, but for now, I'm good with staying on solid ground. Edit. A few people have asked if I think they'll end up back together. Honestly, I think they already were back together in every way that mattered. I was just the guy who didn't know it yet. Edit 2. To everyone saying I should have trusted her. Trust isn't something you just decide to do. It's something you build based on evidence, and the evidence was pretty clear about what kind of partner she was willing to be.